G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Krish Ramineni from Fireflies.ai, based in San Francisco, United States. Thanks for your time today, Krish.
It's great to be here, Troy. I'm excited.
Let's start with how we know each other. So Leah on your team reached out and thought you might be a good guest to come on, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yeah. We've been starting to do a little bit more outreach and partnerships, and till now we've been pretty much stealth, under the radar, quiet, going about our business. But it's always fun sharing the story and then talking about, our journey till date.
Yeah, great. I'm really excited about hearing about, and for the audience too, what Fireflies does, because it looks like it would be quite useful for small business owners. So tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, what I would say is Fireflies is for every knowledge worker out there that has meetings. So anyone that wants to have an AI assistant that helps them take notes, transcribe their meetings, search back and remember their conversations, we're like the bread and butter for that. And so especially small businesses, you don't have a lot of hands on deck. You're taking a lot of customer calls, you're interviewing a lot of people. We want to make that busy work, all that administrative work, easy for you. So the way Fireflies works is connects to your calendar. When you have meetings across different video conferencing platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, WebEx, all of these platforms, it's able to detect it. It's able to join as a participant, like it's joined on this Zoom call right here. Yep. It's a fly on the wall. That's why it's Fireflies. And then it takes notes. Afterwards, you'll get the full transcript as well as a summary. You can search back through the conversation. If you're a salesperson, it can automatically log those notes into your CRM, like Salesforce. That's really like the bread and butter of what we do. And now we're getting into insights. So we have all of this knowledge and insights and data that's available. So how can we provide analytics on the quality of your meetings, what people are saying in those meetings, sentiment analysis, key topics and trends. So we're now branching out as a full suite platform. Yeah. Fantastic.
That sounds very clever and useful. It'd be great if you're okay sharing just with me, sending through the transcript from this. I'd be interested to see what it looks like.
That sounds great. We'll do that after.
Thank you. Yeah. And how did you start out?
Yeah. So prior to Fireflies, I was a product manager at Microsoft working across the Office suite. So got the chance to work with different teams across Office like Word, PowerPoint, one of the NLP teams that does like autocorrect, which we all use today. Yep. Got a chance to work with the Skype team as well on different projects. One of the things I noticed as a product manager is we're in a lot of meetings, and that was my first exposure to the corporate world. And day in, day out, you're in meetings, and meetings are very, very expensive, right? If you get a few people in the room and you're spending a few hours a day, that's a couple $1,000s right there of productive time spent in meetings. But the problem is after you leave that meeting, you don't really remember what was said. You tend to have a lot more repetitive meetings. You have to kick off email threads. And so the idea really originated from how can I be more productive, not having to do all the busy work. And so at the same time, the technology trend, right? Voice recognition, speech recognition was progressing at a rapid rate. So there was this market need, and then there was this technology convergence. We brought both of those things together. So after I left Microsoft, I was planning to go to grad school, but then met up with a friend in Boston, Massachusetts, who was just graduating from MIT. We were working on various ideas, and then, it took off from there. We ended up incorporating, moving the business to San Francisco, and we started out the business. The first couple of years, we were essentially consulting, bootstrapping, didn't take very much money. Like we were living very, very lean. Yep. On like just literally pizza and Soylent, as my teammate says. Soylent is this like multivitamin drink that gives you, it's like a meal replacement thing. Yep. So yeah, we were super, super lean. Towards the end of 2019, we raised our seed round. We rolled out of beta in 2020, right before the pandemic. And then, we were fortunate with the timing as well, because video conferencing took center stage during the pandemic. Everyone was working remote. And then Fireflies was being pulled into lots and lots of meetings and taking notes for lots of people.
Yeah, terrific. And also back on meetings, the other benefit is it allows you just to focus on the conversation and, not there be taking notes. So it's going to eke out a lot more value from those meetings. That's great.
Yeah, especially like if we talk, I was just talking to a customer who's in the recruiting headhunter space, and there's so many things they miss on screening calls with candidates.
Yep.
And they're frantically writing things down. They can't make eye contact. They can't look at visual cues, things that they're saying. So for them to be able to just have that and then being able to automatically send it to the hiring manager, the recap from Fireflies, and instead really focus on the quality of the conversation makes a huge difference, whether recruiting or sales.
Yeah, well, especially with recruiting, 80% of communication is non-verbal. So you really need to be on the ball watching those cues.
Yeah.
And what year did you start out and how old were you?
Yeah, so we went live in 2020. So I sort of treat our first year in business as 2020, but before that, since 2017, 2018, we were dabbling, we were consulting, we were working on projects for different people. We were iterating on different ideas. So I would say like in the last 3 years is what we've really spent the time and energy building up the infrastructure of what you see today for Fireflies. So the last 3-4 years is where it is. But, everything we learned in 2018, 2019 contributed to the product that is what it is today.
So if you started the company or the business really in 2019, how old were you then?
Yeah, I have to trace back. So I was probably, so right after Microsoft, I was 22.
Yep.
And then, 21, 22, when I left Microsoft. And then, so 2 years of consulting, all of that. So I was probably closer to about 24, 25 when we fully got off the ground. Yeah.
And do you have some key numbers to illustrate the growth of the business over those 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. So I think 2020, 2019, when we started, we were less than 10 people, probably. So first 2 years, it was just me and my co-founder, Sam. Yep. Sam's our CTO. And we grinded for essentially like 1 to 2 years, bootstrapping, consulting, all of that, sometimes non-core to what we were working on. So after raising our seed, we were around 5 employees by end of 2019, 10 by the start of 2020. And then fast forward over the last 2 years, we went from 10 to almost over 100 now.
Whoa.
And so most of them are in engineering because we are a very engineering and product driven org. Yep. We have some folks in the customer success teams, customer support, and a few in marketing, but we really are fully dedicated to being a product first, product led company.
Great. That's phenomenal growth. Any other key numbers you can share to illustrate that?
Yeah, I always look at the volume of data or meetings that Fireflies is joining and how it's able to take notes for people. When we first started, it would be just like a handful of meetings every week, maybe like 100 meetings or something like that. And it was like, wow, I still remember that first milestone where we saw Fireflies join 100 meetings for all the different users, to now where we're processing tens of millions of meetings. And when I look at it, like the past year, Fireflies joined and processed and took notes for over 1,000 years of meetings. So wow. in just 1 year. So it would take someone 1,000 years to sit and probably listen through all of those conversations.
Yep.
It's a crazy amount of meetings. And the note taker has been in meetings and with millions of people and sent notes to millions of people. So that's always been very exciting. One of my teammates just told me a stat that Fireflies has attended meetings. If you look at the Fortune 500, it's attended at least a meeting in 80% of the Fortune 500.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah. And we do no marketing in terms of like advertising or anything like that. I think we've probably spent maximum probably like a couple $100 on marketing in the past 2 years. It's all been word of mouth, virality, people sharing it, seeing it in meetings.
Yeah, it sounds like a terrific product, and there would be a great demand out there for it. And what about if I've got an in-person meeting? I'm guessing there's an app that I can just turn on, and it'll listen in that meeting?
Yeah, so for in-person meetings, we're actually starting to partner with different applications. So there's dozens of voice recording, mobile recording tools out there. So we like to take an integration first approach.
Yep.
And so we're right now working as people start returning to the office to be able to, like, if you record on any app, right, even like your iPhone recorder, having like an easy, like one-click sync to Fireflies afterwards. We also have an API. You can also drop audio files into Fireflies. So after you record something, you can just go and drag and drop an audio file into Fireflies. It'll transcribe, summarize it, and save it. Our workspace is essentially like like this notebook with all your conversations that you can search back to.
Yep.
So there were like I was just having meetings with vendors where I spoke with them first maybe 2 years ago, and then I'm having a follow-up meeting. Firefly sends me a reminder. It's like, hey, you spoke with this person 2 years ago. This is like the recap. Go ahead and review your meeting. And then I can attend that meeting, and I'm able to recall all the information, like as if we just had that a few days ago.
That is phenomenal. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Yeah, for us, I think success is always an evolving metric. So in the first days, it was about, can we just get people to use it and provide and find value from it, right? Not even paying for it, just using it. And then to eventually getting people to pay for it, where I have to talk about it, maybe I have to convince them, to getting to a point where, you can go to our website, you can sign up, you can try it out. You can swipe your credit card, you can pay for it, you can invite your teammates, you can share it. When all of that can happen without you having to run into any friction or have to talk to a person, that was success for us. That was like the thing that we constantly strive to improve on. I'm a huge fan of Atlassian, an Australian company as well. And I love the culture of transparency.
Sorry, yeah, I think they're our third and fifth most richest people in Australia, the founders of Atlassian. It's huge.
Wow. Yeah. They're a fantastic company. And I remember watching a video by the president about how they make pricing transparent, everything you can experience and try. And they've just completely revolutionized the B2B model for small businesses. And now they've taken that playbook to enterprises. So our belief was like, look, if you need help, we'll be here. If you need to hop on a call with us, we'll be here. But if you want to just try things out yourself, figure it out, and then sign up for it on your own, we won't bother you if you don't want to be bothered. So there's a lot of companies, right, and a lot of SaaS products where they're much more complicated to set up. So you need to first talk to a human. Our belief is that this is a new technology, new area, and the best thing we can do is democratize the product and the solution so that any person inside an organization can use it and try it. And then through that, it grows inside the organization. Then we're happy to have a conversation with your team or your manager and roll out all the full-fledged features and capabilities too.
What does success look like to you?
Yeah, so I guess we just spoke about success there. So for me, that is the success is allowing people to experience Fireflies without having to, seek assistance from any person. So to be able to successfully deploy Fireflies in a self-service manner, that's always a great sign of success for us, and how they continue to keep using it day in, day out.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business, not that you're doing any marketing?
Yeah, I think right now marketing is a lot about community. And marketing is not just about what paid ads you do or what big TV commercials you do. Marketing is about providing value up front. So that's why this whole product-led notion is about letting people try before buying. Buyers are much more sophisticated now than maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So you have to be upfront, more transparent. I've also seen community being a big thing, right? When you have a community of people that are using your solution services that can advocate for you. So that community, those customer testimonials, that's the best source of product marketing that you can get. Yeah. So I think as a small business, that's where you have to start, is leveraging your community, your users, your customers, and then telling the bigger story.
And you use the Net Promoter Score. What's your most recent number?
Yeah, I think the last time I looked was a few weeks ago. It was over 65. So, it's something that we are starting to now actively track.
Yeah.
And we always ask, like, how likely are you to share this with your friends and peers? And, like we also do customer surveys to all of our users, especially the active users, and try to constantly learn, like, what's one thing we can do better with Fireflies? Why did you sign up versus how are you using it now? Like, what's different about that? And so we're constantly trying to learn. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, positive 65 on NPS is a phenomenal achievement. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
And funding your business, you've mentioned you've bootstrapped it and you've done, your first series. So any other funding?
Yeah. So yeah, our funding journey, like right after we started incorporating, we got some small checks from people, like $25,000 checks from like an MIT based accelerator. So that was really to just keep the lights on, make sure we could barely pay rent and pay for our server costs and food and expenses. So there were times when I was taking money out of my like savings in those early days. And then afterwards, around 2019, when we did the seed, it was around about a $4 to $5 million seed. So that was like our first substantial amount of funding, and that got some really great people on board, even angels. Like, so the chief product officer at Slack, chief marketing officer, previous chief marketing officer at Salesforce. We got the CEO of Segment, which recently got acquired by Twilio. So we got a lot of folks that were relevant in the SaaS industry. We got one of the first engineer ever at Dropbox. Mm-hmm. So like there was just like amazing folks that were great supporters, advisors, provided fantastic guidance. And then in 2021 May, we announced our Series A. Which was around 14 million. So bringing all of it together to about 19 million.
Great. And especially that first round of investors, that sounds like you've nailed the smart money. You're not just taking people's cash, but that is some extraordinary experience there you've got on your cap table that you can tap.
Yeah, like to be able to go back to them, ask for advice, like through all sorts of things, right? Like when the pandemic happened, no one knew what was going to happen to these businesses, right? And then was it going to be good? Was it going to be bad? So, and now we're seeing other things as well in this market where, tech valuations and tech money and VC money isn't flowing as easily as it was actually during the pandemic, because a lot of the SaaS cloud software businesses benefited from the pandemic. So it's always good to have knowledgeable people that have weathered the storm in, different circumstances, different recessions, and also learning from their experience, right? Like there's things that like maybe mistakes that they've made that they want to help you be aware of. So it's always good to have a friendly resource available. Like as a founder, there's a lot of times when you just want to like buckle down and figure it out yourself. And I honestly say that like no matter how many advisors you have, there are certain challenges that you have to face on your own with your team. But there are other times when, sound strategic advice can save you days, months, on not doing the dumb stuff.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
I would be very interested in the RPA space, or robotic process automation. So what that entails is I'm a huge fan of workflow software and workflow businesses. So things that can help people do valuable work and automate redundant stuff. So RPA companies like UiPath, they're fascinating to me because they're very open-ended. And so if you think about like something you have to do at work, right? Copy and paste something from a spreadsheet into like a software system, and you have to do it over and over again manually. So these RPA things can look at what you're doing, all the tedious stuff you're doing, and then run a script to automate that process. So for lack of better words, things that can help make our lives, like all the mundane stuff, easy. I'm a huge fan of that. And that's not just in the B2B space, but even in the consumer space, the things that are coming out. I've seen like robot kitchens, like some of my friends that are working on those, where, you press two buttons and food gets made for you. It's very futuristic. So I think it's just fascinating to see that space develop and let people like, have more free time.
Have you seen the Molly kitchen robot?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so I'll tell a little quick story. A year or so ago, I'm building a house at the moment, and design the dream home. And my daughter and I, she's almost 9, we were talking about it, and I said I really want to get one of these robots in the kitchen, kind of half joking. But anyway, she took that home to her mother because we're no longer together. And then Kate rings me up the next day and said, you've got to stop bullshitting our daughter, like a robot in the kitchen. I said, I'll text you the website. And when she saw it, she was floored. For the audience, it's just an arm in your range hood in your kitchen, which is phenomenal tech, because you can select menus from great chefs around the world. You put your own menus in, your mum's recipes, etc., and the robot will cut everything up, cook it, and I think even pretty much clean everything away as well.
Wow. Yeah. I'm just utterly fascinated by like how, when we had Google and we could search for anything, right? Watch any, video on YouTube, watch any movie, get any information. And now we're seeing that transform in the real world. Like that's where magic happens. Like, press a button, a car comes to you, press a button, and then, you can like literally like find a hotel anywhere in the world, or, stay anywhere.
Yes.
So this idea of like, press any meal you want, click of a button, or like any item you want, you buy on like Amazon or some of these places. So yeah, this thing is fascinating.
It's great. And back when I was looking at it a year or so ago, it was only like $15,000. So price will keep coming down. The other thing, I'm a big fan of AI, but also drone technology as well. That's going to be a game changer for deliveries, etc. And I mean, even AI in Google Sheets, for example, you're starting to see things pop up there where it picks up, not just like formulas that you've put in, and then it thinks, well, I think you want to do this all the way down the column. It's just amazing.
It's funny you say drones, because my co-founder was actually an aeronautical engineer at MIT, and he used to work on drones, and we used to work on hackathons together while we were in college. And the name Fireflies actually came from, we were doing a hackathon around drones, and we wanted to do drone delivery at night. And at night, drones, when they light up at night, look like fireflies. So the actual Fireflies name came from a drone project. So it's funny, but like today, people come up with different meanings for fireflies. They'll say like, oh, it's like a fly on a wall that's taking notes. It's sitting quietly in a meeting. Or someone says, oh, I get it, because all these conversations are dark, and now you're lighting up like an organization with all this information and lighting up all these silos. And so it's just great to like have our customers tell the story of the reason behind the name, when it was actually like the name was for something else completely different.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, I think stress always changes over time. So that's, I think in the early days, it's about like stress of, can you get real users, real customers? And then during the pandemic, the stress was, oh my God, like we have to keep this up all the time. Like the uptime, the maintenance, Fireflies has to work 24/7 around the clock, because people are having meetings across many time zones in over 100 countries. And so by the time the US meetings are done, right, like people doing 9 to 5, 9 to 6, the meeting volume will start in other countries. And then it'll start in India. And so it has to be a 24/7 operation. So as a result, we've had to work very, very hard to deal with and build our entire business as a 24/7 operation that works around the clock all the time. Yeah.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Yeah. So for us, we constantly think about design and how customers can use the product without having to ask for help. So there's many, many things that we try to design so that it's intuitive. We spend a lot of time integrating with all the tools that you already use on a day-to-day basis. So Fireflies works with all your video conferencing platforms, not just Zoom. So that takes a lot of engineering effort and thought and how to build it. It works across Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar. It has to detect all the different types of meetings and then join them on time, right? And some meetings have passwords. So you tell Fireflies, hey, here's the meeting link with the password. He has to learn to enter it and join that meeting on time. We have to like build a system for different accents, right? And though we do English, like there's a lot within English itself that you have to optimize for. There are, I guess, like things related to uptime, speed. Like there's just so much around. There's a lot that you see. Maybe for the 5 things that you see on the customer facing end, there's probably 50 or 100 microservices that are helping support those things to work smoothly.
Yeah, sounds extremely complex, but yeah, again, I think you guys have nailed it. I'm certainly going to be testing the product out after this. What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I think it's about expectations in terms of where your expectations and projections may not always pan out the way you want it to. So sometimes you're doing things faster. Sometimes things that you think that are going to work won't work. The main thing is a lot of times you're being reactionary. So I'm someone that likes to be proactive and know ahead and try to think 5, 6 steps ahead. But when you're in blitz mode, sometimes you're just getting punched one after another and you have to learn to react. Yeah. There is no time to like plan sometimes. So you need to have a bigger picture of where you need to end up, but you don't have a map. You have to like dodge obstacles and move. And that's where like instinct, data, and just execution become very, very important. Planning is great when you're like a large multinational corporation where you can make 1 to 2 changes a year. But in the world of startups, a year is equivalent to 5 to 10 years of change, rapid change, and you have to change to evolve. So that's probably like the thing that you have to keep running. And it's like sprinting a marathon, as I say it, because you don't pace yourself, you're sprinting the whole way, but it's not a short distance. It is literally a marathon. Yeah.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I think it's about the amount of value you can add and things that might have taken a very long time to deliver or put into the market, you can do very quickly. And, sometimes it's quick changes on the spot and there you go. Like you built a new feature, you've built a new product line. And so the ability to iterate fast is exhilarating. Sometimes, like I said, one of the more painful parts of that is how tiring it is. Change can be tiring, but change is also, if you can embrace it, it's exhilarating because every day is interesting.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
The biggest mindset shift has been about how we can enable our teammates to do well. So to be a perfectionist and want to get everything right, it's sometimes hard to let go. But in order for you to scale and in order for you to allow people to have their own space and creative freedom, there are times when you have to push and there's times when you have to pull back and let people solve things. So it's a constant battle of learning to delegate. But I think the most important lesson from that is who you hire makes a significant impact because if there is that inherent trust from day one that you think that they can do the job and they are detail oriented, they don't need to be told twice on how to execute something, that sets up a good foundation for everything else. So good teammates, positive teammates, highly accountable teammates makes a huge difference.
Totally agree. We'll get to that in a minute when we talk about adding people to the team. But what's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Yeah, so the number one habit is being continuously customer centric, especially because markets change, customers' requirements change. I still read almost every single customer piece of feedback that comes in, every feature request that comes in, every time a customer decides to like cancel. Like I read everything. I read the good, I read the bad, I read all of that, and then constantly try to improve. So you don't want to get complacent. And whether you're having initial success or you're a mature player in the market, complacency is what kills. So that's something that is a mindset.
Totally agree. Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course, then add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager. Now, you've gone from the two of you and your co-founder, to now over 100 team members in about 2 or 3 years. It's amazing growth. Can you talk about how you've added people to the team there? Some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, in the early days, right, you don't have too many options. So you have to bring on people that are aligned with the vision, that are taking the chance. And then over time, you start to raise the bar for new hires. Like every new hire, we want to be better than the previous hire, or even better than ourselves, right? Like, so there's no ego there. Like we want people that are, significantly better, where you can feel like, yeah, if this person ran this team or this like function, I'm confident that they can do this if I turn my head away. So that's like a really important thing when it comes to hiring. The other thing is sometimes people tend to put more emphasis on experience, but I think the character and work ethic are just as important, if not sometimes more important, because especially people that have this culture of I'm going to constantly learn and I'm going to constantly go 120%, they will eventually exceed someone that comes in with a couple of years of experience. But their mindset is like, I know it, but I'm going to just work within my box of what I know. And I'm not going to learn or evolve over time. So evolution is key.
Yeah, there's two things I look for in recruitment: attitude and aptitude. How do you vet for that curiosity and drive to continually improve and innovate themselves, I guess?
Sometimes it's simple as much how much research they've done coming in, what they know, like how resourceful someone is. There's so much stuff online about how Fireflies works. Like, did they sign up? Did they use it? And this is for any role. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a marketing role, product role, sales role, customer support role. We expect everyone to know the products and then use it and then understand it. So that competence around product, have they done their due diligence? That's just really important things. And then that also helps us understand their attitude in terms of, are they someone that will just wait for someone to tell them what to do? Or are they going to be proactive and be resourceful? So the attitude is everything when it comes to that. And also just how the way that they interact through the recruiting process, how fast they get back, like how clear and concise the communication is. We're a 100% globally distributed team. So we need people that can communicate well, both synchronously as well as asynchronously, written and oral. And, I shouldn't have to go behind someone and ask them, hey, so what's your update today? What are we doing here? Where are we stuck? It's more of like, I'm always in the know of what's going on. And instead we can talk about more meaty stuff.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture?
I think it's about hiring intentionally and at times being able to say no. Sometimes it's very tempting to just say, okay, let's just hire this person because we need to fill this, and it's a stretch. But anytime we've done that and we've rushed a decision, it turned out to not be the best. So there are times when I'll interview 50 people for a role and then decide, okay, none of them are like the best fit here. So I would rather keep the role empty than hire someone that's not the right fit or hire someone that's going to perform worse, because it's much harder to manage someone that's not doing well than it is to do that task yourself.
The chasm between an A and a B player is massive, isn't it?
And then sometimes that is very fundamental, because if you're going to hire people around them, B players are going to attract other B players.
That's right. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
There is no real work-life balance, to be honest, with where I am at and like with how much work we're doing every single day. It is something I always try to put towards my New Year's goals, but unfortunately the last 3 years, I kind of look at my day as how many hours am I not working versus like, am I doing 9 to 5, 9 to 8, 9 to 9? From the time I wake up till the time I'm sleeping, I'm constantly thinking about my work and I'm thinking about like the team and I'm thinking about the business. So it can be taxing, but it is an obsession. It is like, whatever you call it. It's what I do. It's what drives me, because I don't want to half-ass something. So if I'm going to do it, I have to go all out. But I would like at some point in time where, the team is fully scaling, things are going, maybe I can take like a 2-day vacation. I don't know. I haven't done that in 3 years, so we'll see.
I was very similar. I started 2 businesses. I had other businesses when I was a teenager, like lawn mowing, etc., but serious businesses about 25, and with all the gusto and enthusiasm and naivety. And I was working 100-hour weeks, sleeping under my desk sometimes in the warehouse. One of the 2 businesses was a gift e-tailer. So but you've got to be careful. It is addictive, and you love what you do, but it can also burn you out physically and mentally, emotionally as well.
Yeah.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
So I'm a constant reader. I like to read from different folks that are in the industry. I love learning about SaaS. I learn about venture capital. I learn, now I'm starting to spend a little bit of time on management stuff. Usually I was not a big believer in management books, but in general, like learning from peers, mentors, other folks who've gone through the journey. So I think learning can happen in many ways. You can be watching, you can be listening, you can be podcasts. Nothing formal for me. Like a lot of it is more hands-on. Yep. I think workshops, seminars don't really cut it for me. It's more of if I'm facing a particular problem and then I can go do the research or due diligence and understand and learn how to apply it. I'm all about learning through application. And so if it's not like something that I need to apply, then I don't want theoretical stuff. It's not what interests me.
Have you come across any of the Manager Tools podcasts?
I have not yet. That'll be interesting. Manager Tools podcast.
I'll shoot that through to you. It's the number one downloaded business podcast, has been for 15 or 16 years. Mark and Mike do a great job over there. It is for a lot of it's more big business, but there's a lot of, I'd say 80% of their content's still relevant for small businesses. They're ex-military, special forces and engineers in the military and work for Procter & Gamble, some big, huge companies. And they've got some great advice. And Mark's written 2 books, The Effective Manager and The Effective Hiring Manager. So there's 2 great books there you might want to get into. But yeah, got some excellent casks. Start with the basics in the podcast. So they talk about one-on-one coaching, delegation, feedback.
I will say, like, I've interviewed some folks from the military in the past, and their level of discipline, their rigor and thoroughness, it's something to definitely appreciate. And yeah, they have the get stuff done attitude, and that is so key.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Other than our angel investors and people that I reach out to, no like direct mentors or coaches, like personal coaches or any of that. Yeah.
And I assume you've got a board of directors?
Yes, we do. So we have our investors who are part of the board. We tend to have our regular board meetings. We sync outside of the board meetings. We were able to just talk about all the different things that pop up at a business level, at a team level, at a culture level, and then try to see, like, from their past experiences and with their other portfolio companies.
Yep. So how many people sit on the board and how often do you meet?
Yeah, so we meet like every quarter in terms of formal board meetings. And it's me, my co-founder, and 2 other board members, which are investors.
And is there a chair of that board?
Technically I'm the chair of the board, but it is, we're still a small company, and our board meetings are much more, like everything like is known coming in. There's no surprises. That's how we try to make it. We try to make sure the line of communication is always there between all of us. So the board meeting is really an opportunity to dive deeper into areas like challenges, things that are working, what's not working, like how do we get better at something. So it's more of a collaborative process for all of us.
That's great. All right, Krish, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think the hardest thing is consistency, because you might get so close to having a breakthrough, but then, tapping out, burning out. And that can be the case as well when you build something and it's starting to work and the wheels are there, but you're like, wow, do I have to really put in that much work to just get this like sort of minimal output? So consistency, sometimes life is 90% of the time being there and showing up day in, day out. Otherwise, like, it's not just about being smart, it's about showing up.
It's also not suffering from shiny object syndrome, diverting your focus and attention on consistency. One of my favorite quotes I've got here on my desk, Benjamin Disraeli, one of the ex-British prime ministers: the secret of success is constancy of purpose.
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Yeah, so there's been a few that I've really liked from like a business point of view. There was High Output Management, which I thought was really helpful, like when I was trying to be a first-time manager, on how do you manage your resources. So that was actually really fascinating to me as a book. I also read like stuff around history, like how economies, and how empires grew and fell, and when empires like overextended themselves by conquering too much. And so there's a lot of life lessons and business lessons from there as well. Like, again, goes back to focus, goes back to culture, goes back to morale. So yeah, I like to apply learnings from other aspects of life and history. History is a great teacher, and it can be applied to business as well.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Yeah, I loved listening to How I Built This. That's always been a great podcast. I've listened to Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman about how people built and grew their business. I love listening to like different ones. I think there's one by SaaS Labs, Omer Khan, which is also very interesting about how entrepreneurs bootstrap businesses. I have a soft corner for bootstrap businesses because I know the struggle and the challenges of how it is to be there. It is something that I have great respect for those founders that are able to navigate through the circumstances. But yeah, there's just a few of those tech and entrepreneurship related podcasts.
Have you come across the Nathan Latka podcast?
I have listened to a few in the past. Yeah. Yep. Not as much, but I've listened to some. But it's interesting to see them dive down into the nitty gritty. He's
I've probably listened to him 4 or 5 years ago. I haven't listened for a few years now, but he really did move his focus just to SaaS businesses, and he dives into the numbers. It's only about 20 minutes long each episode, and I think there's 5 that go live a week. So it's quite a rich resource of lessons there and numbers.
Got it.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
A tool, I guess, for us, like, it's really about what are the things that I need to do. And so for me, communication is a big thing. We live and breathe on Slack. We integrate heavily with Slack, all our tools, all our processes. So yeah, like, in order for us to run our business, Slack is like a must. I'm also a huge fan of Zapier. Like, there's things that you need to build, prototypes. So for those that are unfamiliar with Zapier, it lets you connect different apps without code. And so you can kick off workflows. Like, sometimes we'll build something and then we need the data to start showing up in Slack or on a spreadsheet. So we'll use Zapier to do the data routing. Helps with alerting, helps like automate like things that would require several hours of coding. I can just do, with like a few lines on Zapier.
That's great. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
I would focus on quality over quantity. And I think it's really important that you don't need like 1 million customers that love you on day one, or, sometimes if you build for that in mind, it's hard to get off the ground. So it's more focused on, can you get those 100 customers that truly like love you, right? Maybe not 100, maybe start with 10. And so quality over quantity. And then same thing, right? You don't need 1,000 features, hundreds of features. Make sure what you deliver works day in, day out. So quality over quantity is absolutely important because you have to win the trust of your customers and make sure it always works.
Well, thanks very much for your time today, Krish. Really enjoyed the chat, and I think the audience got a lot of value out of it. And congratulations to you and your co-founder and the entire team and investors. It's a phenomenal journey over the last 2 or 3 years, and look forward to checking in again in a couple of years, see where you're at.
Yeah, no, thanks, Troy. It was great. There's a lot of rapid fire questions and I had a lot of fun.
I've had plenty of coffee this morning.
Awesome.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.